Okay, at this time, I will call to order the Tewksbury Finance Committee meeting for January 27th, 2021. First of the new year and beginning of our budget reviews. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it. First up is Town Clerk Budget.
Okay, why don't we do the town clerk's budget itself, and I'll hand it over to Denise. Rob, did you want the budget up on the screen shared, or everyone good?
I have it. Do you want me to share? I can share. Which one are we doing?
I do have my own copy, which is fine.
Sorry, I gotta find it. Which one are we doing first?
Town clerk.
Yeah, so we'll do my regular office budget. So town clerk. All right, so my town clerk, so there's 4 budgets actually that I'm presenting tonight. My town clerk budget, elections, registrars, and parking. So beginning with the town clerk, you know, everything's pretty much level funded. Starting off with personnel.
Yes, I'm going to jump in there, Denise, just for a second, if I could.
Okay.
So there are a handful of department heads that I am proposing upgrades for. Most of them are in group 10 of the personnel plan, non-union. And I am recommending that they be put up, upgraded to grade 10 to grade 11. Denise is one of those positions. So when you look at her salary, there is an increase from FY21 due to that upgrade. And the remaining parts of her salary budget for the remaining employees is level service. But that particular salary was something I brought forward as part of a number of individuals that when we go through the budget, you'll see that I'm recommending for upgrades based on what area towns are paying their positions, similar positions, the workload that has increased in the office, the changes in work that have been in the office. And just tonight, you're going to see 2 others also, but Denise is the first one out of the gate. That's it. Thanks, Denise. You can keep going.
Okay, so and then we'll go right into repairs and maintenance, which is level funded, you know, based on the needs of my office in any given year. That is subject to change. As you can see in fiscal year 20, I didn't expend any funds in that budget, but you know, there are things like the town seal, the timestamp, typewriter, shredder, desktop printers, things like that, that you really don't know when you're going to need a repair. So that is level funded. Leases and contracts for that is just the Toshiba Copia lease agreement, which is level funded at $2,016 for the year at $167.97 a month. And that contract is still good for fiscal year 22. Professional services, that includes 3 items that we're responsible for implementing due to Mass General laws. So one is the voter confirmation postcards for census non-responders. So most of you know that every January we're required by law to mail out the annual town census to all of the households in Tewksbury. And if there's not a response to that, we don't have a response to that, I'm required by law to inactivate any registered voters at that household and send them a confirmation mailing, letting them know that they've been inactivated, moved to the inactive list, and that has to be postage, the return postage prepaid. That's also required by Mass General law. Each year we're required to print street list books, and that happens in, usually they come out late May, early June. And also included in this is the actual annual town census mailing. That's pretty much level funded as well. I don't have a communications budget. Office supplies have, so we have increased the office supply budget by $800 due to just increases in the cost for supplies. You know, as our population increases, our activities and the work that we need to do, which includes, you know, things like copy paper, bond paper for vital records, toner for printers, you know, just everyday office supplies has increased. So that has gone up a little bit, but you can see that in the past that I've been, you know, transferring money when I can to increase that budget. Travel. So travel. I haven't really traveled very much in this past year due to COVID. So hopefully that will change in fiscal year 22. So we've level funded that budget. Dues and memberships have stayed the same. So I'm involved in the Mass Town Clerks Association, International Institute of City and Town Clerks, Middlesex City and Town Clerks Association, and New England Town Clerks Association. Obviously, you know, to keep me updated with networking and trainings and, you know, all of the things that are related to my job. I feel like those types of those memberships are really important to everything that we do to stay current. Staff development, that also is, you know, related to those conferences that and those meetings and trainings that those associations provide for us, which I you know, find very informative and rewarding, and appreciate the opportunity to do that, as well as developing members of my team and training them in all of the activities that they're required to do on a daily basis. So that concludes the town clerk budget. Did we want to stop for questions, Richard, or do you want me to go through all 4 of the budgets?
Denise, just a quick question. It's Dave. What do you consider the biggest impact to COVID on your budget right now? Anything?
Really not, no. Elections, really. COVID has thrown a wrench in everything election related, but as far as our daily activities, we have been open to the public since May. And, you know, we have really, for years, have tried to make things easy for residents to do online. And so each year I you know, try to increase that in any way that I possibly can. But I think we're in really good shape. There's lots of things that we can do online now, and we've been doing that for years. So really it's just elections that that COVID has affected.
I appreciate that. I also appreciate the statistics. I didn't get a chance, Richard, to look into them deeply, but I was actually kind of intrigued that our population continues to grow. Deaths certainly outpace births, but yet our population continues to grow.
Yep.
Is that a factor more of the building going on right now, or?
I think so. I think that probably had a pretty significant impact. I also think that in years when you have, you know, a presidential election, there's times when maybe people that are, you know, living in Tewksbury but haven't registered to vote quite yet, or, you know, they may be planning on living in Tewksbury for a short period of time. They don't register to vote. So last year, I think that we got a lot of new voter registrations, which kind of boosted up that number a little bit as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have any questions on this first budget we're looking at?
All right, so I'm going to go next into elections and town meetings. You know, obviously last year was a big year for us. So you see, you know, such a decrease in this budget due to the fact that we only have our annual town election. It's the only election, and then obviously our town meetings that we have that are part of this budget. So that significantly decreases the costs associated with running elections. The one thing that does affect it is that minimum wage continues to increase each year. So election salaries are also affected by that. So we do pay minimum wage for our election staff, and you know, our lowest paid staff continue to get increases each year. So you know, at some point we have to look at, you know, the wardens and the clerks and the individuals with more responsibilities, increasing those salaries too, to be consistent. So that's also included in my elections budget. The one question mark this year for local elections is that we don't know what the vote by mail situation is going to be. So the legislature has approved early voting up until May 31st of 2021. So we, you know, I watch that closely, communicate with all of our delegation to try to, you know, just make decisions that make the most sense for us in Tewksbury. So there might be a possibility that it is my decision on whether or not we hold in-person early voting for our local elections. And in my opinion, I think that absentee voting takes care of the people that are unable to get to the polls. Even, you know, there's 3 reasons why you would be able to vote absentee. That would be if you have a religious belief, if you're going to be absent from the town on the day of the election, or a medical condition which prevents you from getting to the polls. So, you know, the legislation has allowed being quarantined due to COVID as one of those reasons for voting absentee. And so I'm hoping that that's what passes, and instead of having to have in-person early voting every day, which for a local election, I don't believe that the cost outweighs the benefit on that. Like, so we really just want to make sure that everybody that wants to vote gets to vote in a timely manner, in a convenient manner for them. And so, again, I'm just watching the legislation. I have included those numbers in my budget. So, you know, in the event that that passes, which we're anticipating that it does, then we'll have the funds to be able to do that. That's really it for the elections budget.
Okay. Any questions on this particular budget, elections one?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Denise, I noticed in your narrative you had an unfunded priority for $1,000, increased costs related to implementation of Massachusetts general laws relative to online voter registration and so on. With such a deep cut in the budget, maybe this question is more to Richard. Why couldn't we get that $1,000 in there?
Yeah, so I think we did, right?
I think we did in the end.
That office supplies budget, we did. That was after I had put my narrative together and had my meeting with Richard and Steve, that we decided that you know, obviously wasn't a priority. We did go to town meeting in October due to the increases in the costs for the September primary and the November election, because we did not know that was coming, that we were going to have to be mailing out. I think that off the top of my head, I want to say that in November, over 12,000 vote by mail ballots were processed. And so that was a significant amount of envelopes and paper and postage and all that kind of stuff. So
Oh, that's very interesting. Thank you. Because my next question was going to be, do we have any numbers around the in-person versus the mail-in voting?
So, that's interesting because I've been saying this from the beginning that the voter registration info system that we use for the state is limited in the reporting that I can pull from that. So I have been trying to figure out exactly how many people voted in person early and how many voted by mail, and I can't. I reached out to the state because I feel like that is a statistic that is important for us in planning, and still haven't heard back. So
Well, thank you. It'd be good to collect that for future reference. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That's all the questions I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Denise.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this one? Okay.
All right. So my registrar's budget is pretty cut and dry. We have 4 members of the Board of Registrars. So, the personnel total doesn't change. That's all level funded. Staff development, really I train and hold the meetings for Board of Registrars. The base salary is $28.50, so each member of the Board of Registrars receives $500 as a salary each year, and myself a stipend of $13.50. Office supplies have stayed the same here because we increased my office supply budget in elections, regular budget. That's it for registrars.
Any questions on the registrars? Pretty straightforward. All right. What's next?
And then last but not least is my parking budget. Salaries is a $4,000 stipend as parking clerk. And then we just have professional services. There's $4,000 in that budget. And what we use that for is for Kelly and Ryan, which is the interface with the RMV. So when parking ticket violators do not pay their tickets, we're able to mark it at the Registry of Motor Vehicles, where they wouldn't be able to, get a license or registration without paying the parking ticket. And
Again,
that's
pretty
the
straightforward. Any questions on this one? Okay. Does that do it for you, Denise?
That does.
Anybody have any other questions? Dave, you're on mute if you're...
Sorry, yeah, I was on mute. I just wanted to also thank the voter percentage numbers that were provided as well. And I think this question is to Richard. Has the Board of Selectmen seen that? I mean, I'm astonished at the total registered voters versus what actually shows up to, say, annual and special town meeting.
Yeah, that's it was with them. It was part of the budgets that went out. So,
And it looks like it's a decreasing percentage of people over time that are coming, and I don't know how they address that.
Yeah, it's close to like 1%.
yeah, it's with the budget, so everybody has seen it. I can highlight it again to them, but it is kind of interesting when you look at those numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
I
thank you again.
also have a spreadsheet of historical numbers for elections and town meetings, which I...
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. It's extremely helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, if we don't have anything else, I think we're done with town clerk's budget. Thank you, Denise.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Denise.
Denise.
Good night.
Okay, HR's budget.
HR, okay.
Okay, so Teresa Belanger, who is our HR director, is on with us, but I'm going to run through the budget. If there are any questions, she can answer them. I want to start off with salary budget. This salary was another salary that was upgraded from a grade 10 to a grade 11. I think we had a discussion on this particular salary in the position last year and the importance of the position, but also that it is essentially a one-person operation. There is a part-time person that it's a vacant position right now of approximately 10 hours to 15 hours a week. We're not sure if we're going to fill it. It's open right now, but Teresa really handles all of the job posting, job advertisements, recruitment, orientations, health benefits, all benefits for employees, everything that has to do with HR. And so, most towns have a person doing benefits and a person doing HR and a person doing, other aspects of the job that she has rolled into one. So it's a one-person position, one department position. So I felt it was warranted for an upgrade. Moving further into her operating budget, professional advertising and recruitment stayed the same at $1,000. This is the funds we use to advertise positions online through the MMA or through other media sources. This really depends on how many openings we have in a given year. So we level funded it at $1,000. This year has been a busy year with us advertising positions because of the amount of retirements and vacancies. Postage, $13,600. This is back to level funding to 2021. We bumped it up in 2020 rather. We bumped it up in 21 because of the elections. This account handles postage for the entire town hall, all the departments in the town hall, and all the departments in the, there are departments from the Council on Aging that will come up, veterans. So it really is a somewhat of a centralized postage machine for town hall. But it's back to level funded to what it was prior to this year's elections. Medical, that also is level funded. This is where we fund all of our pre-employment physicals, all of our return to work physicals if anybody is injured, medical appointments for people who might be injured on the job. All of this comes out of this account for all of the departments. Office supplies are just minor office supplies for the office. Travel is if she does any in-state travel for any conferences for her association. Dues of membership for the dues that she has for her state memberships and staff development for any conferences that she may go to. And that's it. It's a pretty straightforward budget.
Okay, anybody have any questions on the HR budget?
Just one comment. My sympathies and compliments on being a one-person show. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I should have mentioned she handles just the town side HR, but she does handle both town and school health insurance
And
and
retirees.
retirement.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. I guess we can move on to the next one. Thank you.
February?
Thank you.
Okay, so we have Diane Giarusso here from the library director, to present the library budget. And again, before Diane starts, Diane is also one of the department heads that was part of the upgrades that I brought forward, moving her from a grade 10 to a grade 11. And again, based on what other library directors in the area have received for salaries, the amount of work that comes out of the library that she's done, not just this past year, but since she's been with the town. So again, another, in my opinion, warranted upgrade. So with that, I'll let her go into the budget in more detail.
Thank you, Richard. That was very kind of you. Good evening, everybody. Happy to be here virtually if I can't be in person, which is a bummer. This budget is slightly increased, not a huge amount. The increases are for salaries, wages that would naturally increase, as well as just a few other items that have increased for the year. Much of the budget has not changed very much, and as you might be able to figure out, it's been a little hard to figure out an FY22 budget using FY20 numbers when the numbers are completely off because we were closed for 15 weeks. So I've done my best, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Do you want to lead the pages, or would you like me to just tell you where I'm going, or?
I'm not sure. What do you?
So do you want me to just? I can just use the summary page to talk about all my areas, if that's what you want, instead of move.
I think that'd be fine. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Don't mean to complicate it. All right. So salaries, with the exception of what Richard mentioned, have increased as they are planned. We're planning to, when the pandemic is over, planning to reopen for full hours, including Sundays again. And so I have planned for being open 59 hours a week. It may not happen in the summer when the budget begins, but we're not open weekends in the summer. So I'm hoping that that we can open again in September, October, completely dependent on whatever the pandemic decides to do. So everything else is basically the same as last year. My energy and utilities are slightly lower. Again, just based on, having some more efficient equipment in the library, taking more careful care of it. My custodian, building facilities manager, is so wonderful. He is on top of all of it. So I really feel like when we have these, utility numbers, they're correct. We're not, things aren't too high or too low. And we are moving forward in that direction. And I ended up using FY19, a mix of FY19 and what I had of FY20 to try to figure out some of these numbers. So I think we'll be fine.
Can I pause you for just a quick second?
Sure.
If somebody could mute themselves. I'm getting some feedback on my end. I don't know if everybody is. But if everybody else could just mute their mics. Thanks.
Sorry. Okay, so repairs and maintenance. Again, very similar, slightly higher, because sometimes inspection fees raise a little bit. And so we've got that. In general, maintenance of the building has stayed the same. We are spending around the same every year for smaller things, and maintenance agreements have held steady. So, and we do depend on working with Vinnie Bommel to get those contracts, favorable contracts. And as usual, Joe, my custodian, and I are always giving him other ideas for town contracts that we think would be helpful to us. So, yeah, so we'll do that. So yeah, there's only a couple of $100 and change there. Network membership has not changed again. for the whole history shown here in the budget. I'm not on the board any longer, so I just assume that it continues to be, you know, good fiscal stewardship and you know, MBLC is a stable organization, and programs and the services that they provide us have not changed drastically and have not gone up in price. So we're happy with that. And that does pay, for those of you who might be new, that pays for our online catalog. So the catalog that you look at to find books, as well as the system that allows us to circulate those books and catalog them. So that's what that is. Skipping over professional services to communications. There was an increase for this year. Some of it is because I finally broke down and got a town cell phone, so people can contact me more easily without having to give them my personal cell. And we started a Wi-Fi program with T-Mobile that does a library. They provide a library program, and do provide us with internet hotspots, mobile Wi-Fi, for a reduced cost. And so that cost is included again this year. We started that during the pandemic so that we would be able to provide staff members with hotspots if they didn't have them at home, so that we could continue to do our work and meet weekly. We did meet weekly virtually, you know, just so we could just stay in touch with each other and the work. So we have that. We're still using them right now because we are not meeting in person. We're still meeting virtually. And, you know, we will continue to use them. The intention is to be able to use those with patrons in the future, to be able to let them borrow them if they need them. Or we have plans of sort of like mobile Wi-Fi. Well, that's my plan. Mobile Wi-Fi in the community in places where there may not be stable internet or great service, or where there may be people living who can't afford internet access. So that's what we'll use that for. Office supplies has really remained unchanged. It's still, we still pay for all of our postage and paper, receipts, printer paper, and all of our materials processing supplies, things like barcodes and book covers and all those little stickers you see on our books. Those cost money. So that stayed the same. Our technology budget has stayed relatively the same. This is still a fairly new budget for us, and we are still, you know, working out what we can do with it, besides, you know, replace laptops and peripherals, which we are doing. We have embarked on we do have a technology plan that has not been approved by the trustees yet. So when that is approved, I can certainly share it with Richard and he can share it with you. But it gives us some direction for the next 3 years in how we would like to improve technology services at the library. The majority of this cost goes to software licenses and to hardware. So that's where those are. Books and subscriptions, again, is 13% of the overall budget. It's the number that we have and that I have and the number that Richard has is totally fine. We have two different numbers, but it's totally fine. So I did, for the purposes of this budget and my request, only include the actual 13% of the budget that we would need to meet our materials appropriations requirement. There is, if there's money available, an additional 3,500 that I've asked for ebooks and e-content. But that is not included in this. And that's fine. We'll deal if we need to. This is because the book budget is a requirement, a certain amount, 13% is a requirement of the state. I just wanted to remind you about the municipal appropriation requirement, which is recognized on the budget summary, the first page, which basically says that the library funding needs to increase by 2.5% over the average of the past 3 years. Now, the pandemic came, and libraries I didn't buy books for 3 months because I had no one at the library to get them for delivery. You know, I couldn't, there were some things that we couldn't do, so we would not have reached that requirement for us and for an expenditure requirement. So the Board of Library Commissioners, in recognition of the pandemic and the fact that it is sort of we are not spending the money because we can't. It's not because we won't or because we don't have it. It's because we can't. They recognized that, and they, for last year's budget and for this year's budget, have told us that we meet our appropriations requirement, we meet our spending requirement, and we meet our hours open requirement, which is for us 59 hours a week. We are currently open 19 hours a week. And so if we don't achieve the municipal appropriation requirement is still in place, but if we don't achieve our hours open or our materials appropriation, we are automatically in a waiver situation. So my sole goal this year and next year, and maybe the year before, is to remain certified, so that we, meet those needs and do not have to go into another period of not having enough funding and having to build that back up again. So, there are lots of ways to do that, but this is the most efficient way for us, is to maintain our funding. So, so we're set with that. We are continuing to buy books. People are still checking them out. We're still doing curbside service for those people who don't feel comfortable coming to the library or who can't get here when we're open, because the hours are so limited. And we will continue to add hours to the schedule as we can. I would like to add Monday evenings from 5 to 7 in March. And I think we can do that. We have needed to hire a couple of new people. They're here, they're trained. We just need a little bit more experience for them, and then we can do Monday nights. And after that, I just feel like all my decisions are month to month based on what the rate of infection is and, vaccination. And I really am wary of over-promising and then having to take things away. That makes me very nervous. So we only reopened in October, and while other libraries around us are rolling back and have rolled back, we have been able to stay open because I took a fairly conservative approach to what we provided, which to me allowed me to balance the fact that I could not be open at all, or I could be open for some use and not have to be open and closed, which is very disruptive for the public, and they don't know when we're open. So that's why we have fairly few hours. Everyone wears a mask, and you have a half an hour limit in the building. And we have had no problem with that. So when we can start to increase, I'm all for it. I miss people. I miss having the library open all day. And so anyway, I'm sorry I got sidetracked. On to dues and memberships. Those have not changed, nor has the staff development line. And sorry, my pages are stuck. And capital is not included in this budget, so I don't have anything to report for that. I'm happy to take any questions.
Rob, if I could, before you go to questions, on the books and subscriptions line item, Diane recommended with the ebooks 167,339. My recommendation was 167,209. I think I just
It just
the
didn't
last
get
three wrong.
okay.
It should be 167,339. I included the ebooks in my recommendation. I just typed
Okay,
it up.
167. Okay, I'm sorry,
I'll adjust
167. Okay,
So it's just 100.
all right, sorry.
Only $130 difference.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll open it up for,
Rob, I have a question.
yeah, Rick.
Aren't all the library, I'm sorry, this is just me trying to think, but aren't all the libraries in the same boat with respect to COVID and how they might need a waiver if they don't have their certain amount of hours?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
will they cut us, you'll think they'll cut us slack?
No. The only thing they're cutting us slack with is our hours open requirement, which is population based, and our materials expenditure requirement. The Board of Library Commissioners is well aware that in many communities, not necessarily this one, but in many communities, when budgets go south, libraries are cut because they're easy to cut. They tend to be smaller budgets. They're not as important as police, fire, and DPW in terms of services to the public, although I would disagree about some of that importance. This is years of experience they've seen. So they are not giving a waiver on the materials appropriation requirement, which is our bottom line budget. But they are allowing us to be able to not be open our full hours. And if we have to close down, we will spend our money this year. But for FY20, we could not spend a quarter. We had a whole quarter we couldn't order anything in.
Yeah.
So that was in recognition of some libraries are still not open to the public at all
Right.
across the state. And, so they're not functioning in any way as a library would.
So I have two other questions.
Yeah.
One is on overtime. Is that basically Saturdays and Sundays?
So the overtime, yes. So let me just get my Sunday hours out. Hold on a second. I knew I would have to have these. We do open Sundays using overtime for my full-time staff. I have 4 part-time staff positions, 3 are filled right now. And those positions work every Saturday or I'm sorry, they work every Sunday. However, those positions are not department head positions, departments in my library, they're not supervisory. So I need to have someone who is can supervise there every Sunday, and I need to have someone who works full time in the library during the week so that when weird things happen, it's not a very part-time staff who's having to deal with those things. And I need coverage in children's. So
Okay.
we pay for the Sunday hours through overtime for my full-time people. And it just ends up being sort of included in the pay for our part-time people. And then we just have separate overtime hours for, when people get sick or I need to pull somebody in or, things
Yeah.
like that.
Okay. And the last question, I'm sorry, is
No, it's okay.
how much of a problem is book theft at the library?
Well, there's 2 kinds of book theft, and it's not just books, it's DVDs and music and magazines and newspapers. And there is the theft that occurs when people don't return things. And then there's the theft that occurs just by walking out the door, and we haven't seen them do that. So, and I have not done a really in-depth study of what is missing or what might be missing. So I can't really answer that question. However, from, as an industry, we know that people are taking our materials. These tend to be people who are afraid that they won't be able to find it the next time they come. Someone will check it out and it won't be there. Or they know they need it for longer, but don't know that they can ask us for an extension, a renewal, and panic and take it so that they don't end up with overdues and, bills and things like that. And then there are people whose kids put books in the book bag and they didn't know. I mean, there's that kind of stuff. But if I were to hazard a guess, I would guess that that I would say it's probably about an equal amount of people who just don't return things and people who take them home. There are also people who don't literally do not know that they can borrow them. They don't have to pay for them, therefore they don't have to take them without checking out. So it's an interesting.
And the other question I have is around fines. The library doesn't do fines anymore?
We do not. We talked about this last year, the trustees, and I talked with Richard and the finance director, and I've been told to blame the finance director for encouraging me. But basically, what we have discovered and what we know from the work around fines in libraries is that fines, yes, some people bring things back and we charge them and they're okay. But for most people, it becomes a shameful experience that they forgot their book. They're worried about what it's going to cost. They don't come back, or they don't let their children come back because their children lost a book. And they end up not using a service that they paid for already. And the amount of money that we take in for the town, and I've always been in favor of giving that money to the town. I am not in favor of keeping it because I think that it's an extra thing that goes back to the town, is a smaller amount, especially over time, it's become a smaller amount. We implemented, or the MVLC implemented, automatic renewals, which will renew someone's item if no one else is waiting for it, so that they don't have to rush to the library or try to call us when we're open, and they don't have to worry about getting their book renewed. If no one else wants it and it is a renewable item, like a book or a magazine, then they can renew it. It will be renewed for them and they'll receive an email.
Okay.
And that immediately cuts the fine intake by 50%. Just
okay. So on the MVLC side, where say I get a book, say I ordered a book from I get it from Chelmsford's library, and it came to Tewksbury.
Yep.
And I don't bring it back. What happens? Do we price?
So yeah. So if you don't bring a book back, you will eventually get billed for the book, because we would consider that outright theft. I consider that outright theft, but I'm meaner than many other library directors. I consider that theft. We charge you for that. You cannot use your library card anywhere, not just in Tewksbury, while you have that fee on your library card. If you return it, no problem. You can start using your library card again. But for things that are long overdue, like something that you didn't return for months, that we're going to charge you for. If you have damaged something, and they're going to charge you for that as well. But otherwise, the fines really just served to discourage people from using our service.
So, but that doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt our relationship with MVLC?
Not at all. No, MVLC doesn't really care if we charge fines or not. MVLC really cares about helping us provide better service to our public. And so that's the that's their mission, to help libraries serve their patrons better.
But the book I got out of Chelmsford that I didn't return to you,
Mhm.
does Chelmsford call you and say, hey, Rich didn't bring his book back?
No, they're going to call you.
Chelmsford's going to call me.
Yeah, if you borrowed a book, I mean, if the book was sent here to Tewksbury from Chelmsford, then yes, we would call you. But if you borrowed it there and then just didn't return it, or you went to Drake it or whatever, it doesn't matter. It looks at the place where you checked out the book. So yes, if you checked it out in Tewksbury, we would call you.
Okay, thank you.
I would
You're
just bring your books back, Robert.
I find that's the best, but you know, we also will, you know, we're willing to work with people. We don't know what people's circumstances are, and you know, we try not to judge.
Yeah, and I can see where it can be an embarrassing thing if you're under certain circumstances. You don't want to sit there with a line of 5 people behind you, and yeah, I understand.
Plus, I'm going to tell you a secret that very many people don't know. We don't even remember what you checked out. So we're not judging you about anything. We're just waiting for the notice to come saying you didn't return it. People think that we know, and they're embarrassed about that, but I'll tell you guys a secret. We're not. We don't know. We can look you up, but we don't. We have too much else to do.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, I think I'll go around the horn. Jason, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Susan?
No.
Okay. Tom? You're on mute, Tom.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Glad to have you.
I was just curious, Mr. Chairman, through you. Mrs. Giarusso mentioned hotspots. How many hotspots do you have?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry. We have, right now, we have one that we pay for through the town that we used to go to the community fair, community market, those kinds of things. And we purchased, or through the T-Mobile, 2 others. So we have 3 hotspots that we can use within
3 hotspots, but that any employee of the library can use.
We use them. No, you have to actually be working to use them. So if you're, you know, representing the library at like the senior fair or, you know, something like that, you can bring it along with you and bring it back. Right now, they're only used in the library, and they're only used to really facilitate meeting as a staff. We
Okay.
have 17 people and we can't meet until the governor decides to change that number. So.
Okay, and you, just a follow-up,
Yeah.
you said you had virtual meetings with staff. What are you using for your virtual meetings?
We are using Zoom because we also use it for all of our programming. And we moved from in-person to virtual programming last April. And we've had a lot of good luck with Zoom, and it's something that's very easy for patrons to log on to. And so that's what we've been using.
So you're not using any of the town services?
No, not for library purposes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Dave?
Yes, 2 questions. Diane, as you reopen in a more full mode, as you are able to, are there any increased costs that you see happening, like for social distancing, for cleaning after people have used something, anything like that? Where is that allocated?
First, we're doing the same cleaning that we did before. I still have my custodian, and it's a little easier when patrons aren't in the building for us to clean in a more comprehensive way, like all of the desk areas and things like that.
Well, I'm thinking if someone's used a computer,
Yeah.
books, sat down in a particular
Yeah.
place, are we going to be doing a lot more of that? And could that incur increased costs? Cleaning materials,
No, those
custodial
costs,
services?
yeah,
that kind
no,
of-
those costs have already been put in place. We have, of course, we have cleaning supplies for each desk. We hand out keyboard covers and mice to anyone who wants to use a computer. They plug that into the computer and cover the keyboard and use that. And when they're done, they return it to the reference desk or the children's desk, and we clean it there. All of our books are quarantined for 3 days, which is a standard right now. In terms of people touching books and putting them on tables and things like that, we also have to realize that we're a public service, and people come in, and they're going to touch our books. They're going to do those things, but the likelihood of someone leaving a live version of the virus on a book that then someone happens to touch is very slim. And for staff members, if they're concerned, I do encourage them to wear gloves and then to dispose of the gloves and wash their hands after they've picked something up that a patron has left. But otherwise, we have to, in some ways, we have to function and ask people to take personal responsibility. We have to function somewhat like a grocery store where.
So you don't see any increased costs like putting in petitions, things like that?
We have put them in, and those
They're
are all
already in.
paid for. Yeah, they're already in. I think we may have a small, huge supply of Lysol, so we've been able to do that in FY20 and 21.
If I can just jump in quickly, we installed a fair amount of safety glass in all of our buildings, including the library. We were reimbursed through the CARES Act for that.
That's where I was going with that too.
Yeah, and we've purchased any supplies we have purchased that has to do with COVID. We are seeking reimbursement through our allotment through the CARES Act.
Excellent.
Libraries, COAs, schools, health received grants separate from the CARES Act to help them out. And then in addition, one of the things we purchased through the CARES Act funding was a machine for each of the facilities that sprays or fogs areas of the buildings to clean them. And we do it once a week at the Town Hall Annex DPW, and I believe the library's done on Saturdays by their maintenance person. They go in, I say fog, it's probably more of a mist of the whole building to clean it once a week. So
Excellent.
any of that type of equipment, any type of cleaning supplies, any type of petitions and barriers that we purchased and put up have all been funded through the CARES Act so far.
And my only other question is, once you do open up again, people have been away for a long time, and you tend to form new habits, meaning that I would go to the library. Now I'm not going to the library.
Mm-hmm.
Do you anticipate any kind of need to, I won't call it advertise, but how do you plan to get people to come back after they've been away for so long?
Yeah. We will need to advertise. I mean, maybe not the way you would traditionally think of an advertisement, but yes, there will be people who have dropped the habit of stopping by the library because it's not convenient for them. So I'm hoping that once it's convenient again, that will help. We have maintained a robust social media presence. We are most of our programs are either on Facebook Live or on YouTube and then broadcast to Facebook, those kinds of things. So those kinds of opportunities to stay connected to the community are still there. The ones that are, and I think once we can reopen and have people in the building again for programming, people will come back for that as well. But I also think that things are going to change, and I think I would really like to continue to encourage people to use our online resources, Canopy for movies, Overdrive for ebooks, those kinds of things, in addition to, what we're doing now. So, I have visions of people just like flocking back in happiness. That's what happened in October.
I just
Except
feel
for-
like this
except
is
for
changing
families.
lifestyles for a lot of people, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
how does the library adapt to that?
You know what? This whole year, almost a full year, has been about adapting and about figuring out how to do it a different way. And I have no illusions that we're going to just go back to the way everything was in the past. We will still have glass in between us and patrons. We will still, I'm trying to figure out a way we can do virtual and in-person programming. But teens and children have not been able to come to the library. They're at school, their families are nervous, and those are the people that we're really worried about. And
I'm
those
glad
are
to
the
hear
people
you
who really need
about
us.
that, Diane, because I think change is inevitable, and I can hear that you're already thinking along those lines, which is where I was going with it. So thank you.
The brain never stops working.
That's all I
will-
had, Jim.
I will say though that planning and working through this has been the most challenging professional experience I've had, but it has been also the most enjoyable because of the challenge, but also because of the support from all the departments, from Richard and his office. It's been very easy to work through this struggle, and I'm
Glad
very
to-
grateful for that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Dave. The only question I had was on the energy utilities line. It was more of a curiosity, but so it's down a decent amount from last year, from the fiscal year 21. And you weren't open for a good amount of that. So I'm wondering if with this current year that we're in, if we're going to come under that, or what? Any idea?
I think under the 21, I think we'll be lower than that. I think we're having a mild winter. We were not open to the public in the summer, so there was not as much use of air conditioning. It didn't have to work as hard, is what I'm saying. So I think we'll, if we will not go over, but I do think we'll come in under for those reasons. 15 weeks is a long time to be closed, have a mostly closed building.
Okay.
Plus, I'm always hot, and no one gets the heat when I'm there. I won't let them.
Okay. And how did you come up with sort of this year's, which is under last year's?
I'm going to tell you that it feels kind of like magic. I used FY19 figures and what I could of the normal FY20 to try to come up with this. The other thing I did not do this year, which I did last year, is I did not include any percentage increase, partly because I knew COVID would continue through this, through the beginning of 22, and partly because those were the only figures that I really had, because we had very low bills, March, April, May, June. So that's how they came up, how I came up with them.
Okay.
Just looking at what we had done in the past.
Okay. Does anybody have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to chime in on just follow up.
Yep.
The Green Committee also received some grants for the library, which impacted the mechanical systems in higher efficiency equipment, which saved on the energy side.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, we have been seeing that savings through the past couple of years,
Yeah, I'm sure
and
you
they
have
are significant.
through the
Yeah.
bill, because I do see the bills through the state program, the energy software that they use.
Mhm.
But there has been savings, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that's good to hear. Okay, if nothing else, I think we can be done with Diane. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Where do you want to go next, Richard?
Hey, Rob, you sound pretty far away. Have you got your mic?
It's on my laptop over here. Sorry, I'll speak louder. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
All right. So Richard, you're on mute.
Okay, so the Council on Aging budget, we have the director, Jan Canola, with us. Jan was appointed this past year, so this is her first go with the budget. She'll take it through the salaries and any changes in the operating side, and we'll answer any questions you have. So, Jan, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so we did lose an outreach worker and we didn't have a maintenance person for quite some time. So we had those two hires to reappoint or rehire. And so we've just hired an outreach worker, and my budget actually was for a step below what we wound up hiring her at. So this budget is about $6,000. Oh, no, you fixed it. Did you
I
fix
haven't
it,
fixed it
Richard?
yet, so this budget will
Oh, no.
need to, this salary line will need to change, increase approximately $6,000, which I'll do before the budget process ends to reflect the new hire.
Right. And then the energy utilities, I put in for $64,000. It was kind of in between what we spent in FY 20 and what was budgeted for FY 21. And based on the fact that we're closed and we're not running programming in the evenings like we have or on the weekends, I figured that this would be a good landing point for that. Our repairs and maintenance side, we went up a little bit based on the fact that we have to have some generator maintenance done. Vinnie Bowmill advised me on that, and he increased the amount of money for the HVAC preventative maintenance. So that's why that increased by that much. The rest of the line items that we use for that budget stayed about the same. And then I think I just went up 3% in the professional services because the professional services, they usually go up in some of our licensing. So I just put up a little bit, maybe 3% on that one. I left the maintenance supplies the same because we are not open, and so we're not purchasing as many rolls of toilet paper and cleaning supplies as we would if we were open every day. And the office supplies I left the same. It's level funded, and the mileage is the same. I think most of it is level funded except for the repairs and maintenance. So did you have any questions for me?
Okay, I'll go around the horn again. Rich, you want to?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you. I have two questions. One is travel. Is that just for travel? Could you explain what that's for?
Yeah, that's basically for the maintenance individual if he has to go to the hardware store to pick up something from the hardware store, or the activities coordinator or the secretary if they need to do any, in-town travel to pick up supplies or whatever.
Okay, and I noticed a couple lines like that from FY 20 expended. It doesn't look like we like on car allowance. In FY20 it was 440. And we've been at past 2 years at 3,600. Why did we not use the full amount before, and why is it 36 now?
So the reason that we probably didn't use it was because the director left in May of, I don't know why it was only 440, honestly, I'll have to look. But the director had a car allowance and she left in May, and let's see, we're in FY21. I'd have to look at that. I don't know why it was only 440. Do you know why, Richard?
No, part of it is because she left, but we can double check that number for you, Rich.
Okay. So you're comfortable with a 3,600 number?
Yes, because we have an outreach worker that will need a car allowance to be able to do home visits and, you know, get out there into the community, maybe travel to do any kind of professional services or, you know, see some of the other departments or whatever. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Actually, what happened was when the numbers were entered on the into the expended budget under overtime, that should have been 440 instead of 3,300, and the 3,300 should have been down at. If you look at those two numbers,
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
interchanged.
yeah.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
It's got to be changed.
We'll blame it on Microsoft.
No, that's blamed on me and my typing.
Okay.
I like to blame things on Microsoft.
I was getting nervous that I did something wrong already.
No.
Oh, no. And welcome to Tewksbury, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay, Jason, any questions?
No, sir.
Susan?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right, Tom?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Dave?
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions similar to the library. The first one I know may sound a little stupid, but what do we consider a senior citizen in the use case of the senior center? What age?
So we won't turn anybody away. If somebody's, you know, 55 and retired and they want to come to the senior center, they can certainly come when we're open. We're not open now.
Right.
But basically they say that people of the age of 60 and over can come to the senior center and take advantage of the activities. But I mean, we have had younger people, but it's a small amount.
And I bring that up in the context of what I did with the library is that, you know, some people will either out of inherent fear or habit just stop coming. So how do we try to get them back? And do we kind of lower the age of what we call a senior so that we can get more people trying to come in and utilize the facilities? Have you given any thought to that?
So pre-COVID, we had 2 evenings where we did yoga classes so that we could get the younger population, people that were still working, because there are a lot of older adults that still do work. So, you know, they haven't retired yet, but they would like to come and take advantage of the senior center. I think a lot of times people talk about a senior center and they think it's for old people. And so we try to change that perspective anyway. And that's always a challenge. But, you know, I think that the people that do frequent the senior center are dying to come back here. And so they will come back when they feel comfortable, and we are going around to try to make sure that everything is safe for them to come into the building and come back and exercise. We did do exercise classes outside from August until almost the beginning of December, and they were very vigilant about coming, and they really do like the activities and offerings that we have here. So I think, you know, marketing to people the way we do through the newsletter and Facebook. And, you know, a lot of the older adults don't, you know, the really older generational adults don't use, you know, technology, but their younger counterparts do, or their grandchildren or their children. So I think we'll see them come back without a problem, but, you know, it'll be a slow go.
Well, thank you. That's all the questions I had, Rob.
All right, thanks, Dave. I don't really have any questions. Anybody have any follow-up questions? Otherwise, we can let Janice off the hot seat here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I have one follow-up question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Under repairs and maintenance.
Yep.
You flip over to that worksheet.
I'm sorry.
Could you, Rob, could you flip over to the repairs and maintenance tab? Elevators, LA, is this where the elevator is?
So we have to do an elevator so we have a lift
Yep.
that's out by the stage. And so that has to be inspected every 2 years.
Okay, so through you, Rob, I guess to Richard are all the elevators, like is the library every 2 years? Or is the library 1 year?
It depends on the elevator. Our elevator at town halls every year, so it depends on where the elevator falls. This is more of a lift, so it might have just every couple of years, whereas the elevators in our buildings are every year.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Janice.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All
Okay,
right.
so we're going to go to community development. Steve Sadwick is here, and Steve, what budget you want to start with?
I think we could start with community development first.
So I'll have Steve. Steve's going to present the budgets for community development, Board of Health, and building. So why don't you go ahead, Steve?
Yeah, so here on the community development page, and by the way, community development covers planning, conservation, and the zoning board of appeals, just for everybody's understanding of what the job functions are there. We saw there's an increase in regular salaries of $2,478, and that was basically step increases for the 3 employees that are in this budget. You could see that in the operating, there was a slight decrease in the office line, and then there was a slight increase in the communications line. And what that is based on is we're going to be doing more mailings now in-house when it comes to applicants for the planning and zoning board of appeals. A lot of the town's responsible for the mailing, so it's a minor adjustment for us to pick this up as a service to the residents, and they'll be sent out as postcards versus mailings that have to be tri-folded, stuffed into envelopes. And we found that it's easier, and a number of surrounding communities are doing that. So that was why we shifted to that. And that's really the only significant changes in this budget.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on this particular one? I don't see any. Okay. Which one do you want to do next?
Let's go to building. And just so everyone's aware, the building commissioner, Ed Johnson, retired, I believe it was January 15th. and Cheryl Noble has joined the town as the new building commissioner. And so when this budget was put together, Cheryl was not on the team at the time. It was myself and some staff within the building department that put this together. So what you can see is salaries decreased by $3,521, and that was basically with Ed's retirement. There was some buybacks that were included in the previous budget for that. One of the things I'd point out is that we're still holding the local inspector position vacant right now. Joel Guinan, who had served in that position, I think for 2 or 3 years, left the town during this current fiscal year, and we kept that vacant. So we are putting it in the FY22 budget after Cheryl gets to observe the department a little bit more, and we can have a conversation as to what that position would look like, filling it going forward. And that's, there was one other change, which was in, I think it shows up under leases and contracts, but that was due to our permitting system. There's a new annual fee that was tacked on for the online permitting. I think it was back in November that we finally got online permitting for electrical and plumbing permits. And we're waiting to roll out the regular building permits until Cheryl had arrived, so that we can kind of talk through that a little bit more with her and get a level of comfort as far as how the intake would occur and what materials would be coming in. But we're just about ready to roll that out. I would say probably within the next month or two, which I'm kind of looking forward to because it's been a long time in coming. So that's really it as far as the changes to the building department.
Okay,
Question,
yeah, Rich, go ahead.
with respect to the new building commissioner, her salary versus Ed's, did we save any? Is it equal? Is it more? Where is it in line?
It was a little bit more than what Ed was making. And again, after one, she's worth it. Two, I think Cheryl has maybe 16 years in the 16 years experience as a certified building commissioner. And not to take anything away from Ed, but I think Ed didn't achieve that until 2009 or so. So Cheryl comes a little bit more seasoned than Ed. So those were considerations that we made as far as bringing her at a higher level. It's basically what the market is demanding right now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions on this budget?
Yeah, this is Dave. A quick question. Do we foresee any changes in building permits based on the economic situation and COVID? I mean, are we seeing any trends that, you know, maybe people are doing more work on their homes because they're home more, or the economic situation has, you know, kind of frozen the bank accounts a little bit? Do we see anything around that way as a trend to look forward to?
So Dave, interestingly, on the cover sheet, we had put in a table that had the revenues and building permit
I'm
counts.
looking at that right now. That's why I
Yeah.
was kind of thinking for the future.
So when I mean, when you look at 2020, we were only off by about 100 permits, and we ended up taking in a little bit more than we did in 2019. I don't believe that we're seeing a decrease at all. And I think, again, you know, it's really a hard thing to pin down because it's so reactive in nature. And
I'm actually wondering if we're going to get more because of more people working at home, like myself. I work at home now.
I would, you know, Again,
We are number 10 in the country in Money Magazine for working from home, so.
absolutely. That's, you know, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with what you're saying, that we may see an increase, but that would probably be more on the home remodeling type stuff.
Yeah,
And again, Cheryl was in Stoneham before she came here, so I don't know if Cheryl, if you had noticed any trends in Stoneham, if there was a bump at all during the COVID period.
Yeah, there was a lot more residential remodeling because people were home, more decks, more offices being built. It's more of an open concept now, and people are closing it in because they need the little offices and things like that, and basement remodels and they need more space.
So there's your answer.
thank you. Yes, I was just wondering about that. I was looking at that chart. That's very helpful. And I was just kind of curious, maybe that will be a trend going into 2021 as well. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Tom?
Yeah, I just want to share my experiences that I've had in the last 2 years with homes, residential. There is a big interest out there now to buy up older homes, tear them down, and also to build up a larger and more expensive home on the same property. That is a trend that's going to continue to increase, just based on my own experience. So there could be, or maybe, some increase in the building area for permitting, both from a demolition point of view and also a rebuild on the same property. Because there are the groups, I mean, I get weekly mail here at my own home for people that want to buy my home and tear it down and build a new one on the same property, the acre zoning, you know. So
You're not selling, are you, Tom?
No. But that's the ongoing business right now for builders. And if you look at the consumer prices for materials, the material market for homes, wood, lumber, appliances, you can't get an appliance now without waiting 3 months, you know, for a certain appliance, whether it be a range or that's ongoing. So it won't take long for our own community to catch up with that market, based on what I'm seeing. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Jason, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Susan? Take that as a no. Anybody else? Okay. I'd just like to say welcome aboard, Cheryl. Glad you could make it here tonight, and hope you're finding things to your liking in Tewksbury.
Thank you.
I have no other questions on the budget. Do you have another one, Steve, or was that?
Yep, we have health next.
Oh, yeah.
And so with health, for those that don't know, our health director, Susan Sawyer, her last day is this Friday. And we were fortunate that we were able to promote within, and Shannon Sullivan is now the Tewksbury Public Health Director. Shannon's been with us, I think, for 6 years in the health department. But again, I will go over the budget, and Shannon is available to answer any of the more difficult questions. So I think the things to point out in this budget, you could see there right off the bat on the regular salaries that we had a drop of $18,000 in salaries. again, with Susan's retirement, just like I'd mentioned with Ed's retirement, there were certain things in the salary lines as far as buybacks are concerned, and the 3.5% salary differential we have in place, and those types of things that kind of elevated that salary line a little bit. So there was this readjustment of $18,000 in that line. And then you see that pretty much everything else in the budget, as far as operating is concerned, didn't really change at all. There were just some minor adjustments. And we have Shannon's replacement will be starting in 2 weeks on February 15th. And we will be then fully staffed in the health department again.
Okay.
I have a question
Rich, go ahead.
on, and this is COVID related. Have we, I'm sure we see an increase of inspections everywhere, right? With given go curbside pickup, all that kind of stuff. Is that true? And is that money that we have to spend covered through CARES?
For some of the activities, yes. Shannon can kind of speak to the increase in activity that the health department is seeing that's COVID related. And then I think Richard could probably address some of the CARES funding issues. So Shannon, do you want to explain what it's been like in the health department during COVID?
It's been very busy. So now we're dealing with complaints from any general business, ones that we don't typically go in or permit at all. So one of our main issues right now is with a cheerleading gym, which on a typical day, we don't have any interaction with them. But instead of fining, we have been doing one verbal call and then a written warning to them, and then it would lead to fines. As of right now, we've only fined 2 people. But yes, the inspections, it's hard to do our typical day-to-day inspections because COVID has kind of taken over our department at this time.
And in regard to CARES Act funding or general grant funding in regard to COVID, we've funded additional staff, specifically nurses, to assist with the health department in regard to contact tracing, following up with positive cases, close contacts with positive cases. Now we're shifting towards vaccine distribution, where we'll utilize staff to assist with a future vaccine distribution clinic. And any costs incurred there will be 100% reimbursed through FEMA. So we've used grant money through CARES Act and other grant sources to mainly pay for staffing, PPE, laptops, phones as needed for staff to really do contact tracing positive cases.
Okay, thank you.
Jason, any questions?
No, sir.
Susan?
No.
Okay. Tom?
No.
Okay. Dave?
Just an ask. Do we have any numbers on the number of inspections, number of, out of compliance actions that we have to work with, things like that? I'm just curious if we're tracking those numbers and if we could get them at some point.
We will send you what we have, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You good, Dave?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. I have no questions. Thank you. Steve, Shannon?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Where does that leave us, Richard? Richard here? Where'd you go? There you are. You're muted. Still muted.
I'm done. We're through my budgets. I think that was all the town manager had for this evening as far as department budgets.
Well, I see moderator, finance committee, and town council.
Yeah, we gotta unmute Richard somehow here.
Oh, sorry about that. We can, yeah, I was going to go through town council budget, moderator, and finance committee pretty quickly.
All right. What do you want to start with?
I was going to do town council, which is pretty straightforward. This is for legal fees for our senior town council and our town council. Senior town council is Charles Arulis, and our town council is Kevin Feely. The budget is level funded. The budget is just a function of how busy we are in a given year. As you can see from the previous years, what we've spent. We usually spend somewhere close to the $150,000 range, but it's level funded.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody questions on this one?
Just a quick question, Richard. If there is something, say, COVID legal related that comes up, would that come out of this budget, or would that be something that could be reimbursed through the CARES Act?
We would try to seek reimbursement through CARES Act for anything that's even has any relation to COVID. We'd obviously have to expend the money first and seek reimbursement. So,
gotcha.
It would probably hit this budget, and then we'd seek reimbursement, or we would put in one of our COVID lines that we're running. We run deficits in, and then replenish with the grant money. But we would try to get reimbursed, Dave. We usually do. Anytime we have an expenditure, we always determine if it's COVID related, and we've either asked ahead of time or we just send the reimbursement in.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? Okay, I think we can move on.
Moderator budget, pretty straightforward. Salary level funded at $450. Travel to any conferences that the moderator may go to, and dues and memberships to the state Moderators Association.
Yep, pretty straightforward. Anybody questions on this one?
Nope.
No, sir.
No.
And then finance committee budget. Again, a level funded, temporary part-time for the recording secretary, office supplies for any supplies may need for the committee, dues and membership to the state Association of Finance committees, and staff development if there are any seminars that may come up that the finance committee members may want to go to. And then the reserve fund is level funded at $75,000.
And can you remind everybody what the purpose of that reserve fund is for?
The reserve fund is for any extraordinary expenditures or emergencies or unique expenditures that may come up during the year that were not foreseen and not budgeted. We can go to the reserve fund with approval of the finance committee to transfer the funds into a particular budget.
Okay, and it looks like we've technically turned that back.
Yeah, you do typically turn it back. I think there's been only a couple of years you've spent it, but for the most part, departments have lived within their budgets, and because they have the ability to transfer between budgets and with the finance committee approval, that's been able to keep the finance committee reserve intact.
There were a couple of those you sent out to yesterday, right?
Yeah, those are within budgets. They're not from the reserve fund.
Okay.
Okay, anybody have questions on this one?
Nope.
No, sir.
How come there's no like regular salaries line in this one?
Yeah, really.
You doubled your pay from last year. You didn't notice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that 75,000 for, right? Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, I think we're done with the budget then, yes?
Okay.
Let's see.
Transfers?
Sorry. Say before we get into the transfers and whatnot, do you have anything else for us, Richard? Maybe a fire station update? Kinda curious what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, the fire station continues to progress in a positive manner. We've had no major issues at the new station construction. They're actually enclosing it for to start working inside with the cold weather. If you go by there, you'll see the top that's being put up. The steel has already been erected. There have been no issues in the construction meetings that we're having on a weekly basis. I meet with the OPM every other week to review anything that's going on with the project. It's on budget. Been a few change orders, nothing major. The change orders are within the contingency that we have. And we're still on schedule for October, November 2021.
Same question on the elementary school. Are we still under budget?
Yeah, we are under budget, although we've had some change orders that we've used our contingency for to pay for those change orders. But the project continues again to progress in a positive manner. The schedule for its opening is sometime in the fall of 2022, maybe January 2023, depending on the decision by the school department on when they actually want to transition over. But the project seems to be going well. I think Tom will speak a little bit more to it when he gives his update on the school building, on the elementary school building committee. But I think that project's going well also.
You want that now, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, while we're talking about it, why not?
As Richard has alluded to, project budget of the construction budget of 76 million some odd $1,000. As of our last meeting, we expended 14% of that amount. And the change orders, Richard's correct, there's been 2 change orders approved, and they have been approved for roughly around $115,000. And most of those were related to the athletic building. The athletic facility, the building itself, the budget for that is expended to about 40%. As of our last meeting, they're beginning to work on all floors of roughing, studding, etc. That building is scheduled and is on schedule to open or to be accepted as substantially complete in September of 2021. That's this year, 8 months away. So we'll get to use, or hopefully use, that facility when we receive a certificate of occupancy, hopefully in September, for the football program. The athletic field itself and the bleachers are well on their way with construction. The trimming of the field, the actual edging and the drainage has been installed. That's necessary for the drainage of the field in the surrounding area. The building itself, the elementary school, all 3 levels have been constructed. And last week, they did a topping off ceremony with the last piece of steel. Presently ongoing is pouring of slabs, 1st floor, 2nd floor, and 3rd floor. You'll see the same thing, tops hanging from the building. And for interest of the committee that wanted, there is a link on the town website to go to the school. And there's a link that shows you the WeatherBug camera that will give you a daily positioning of the school construction. Right now, the building is fully open. They haven't put a facade or started to put a facade on it yet, which would be masonry and metal siding and so forth. But it's moving quite along. We have, again, no major issues with the construction so far. There have been some issues with neighbors with regard to noise, and that's mostly due to concrete pouring and how they have to level out and float the slab concrete to get it to cure properly. And there was a minor issue with the sewer line being offset, the sewer line that would connect to Monroe Circle, running across somebody's property, one of the residents. And that was handled and negotiated by the town manager and the OPM, the contractor, the consigli contractor was construction manager also, and a member of the school committee, who ironed out some negotiations on that sewer line. Richard may want to add something to it. I think the matter is settled. I think, Richard. And
Yes, it is.
That was the only major issue. That's the end of my report verbally.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
You're welcome. The Green Committee?
Sure, well, you're on a roll. Let's go.
The Green Committee met a week ago, and we are presently in our round for another round of grants, so putting the application together. That has to be in by April 9th. Some ongoing estimating is being done on 2 projects. One of them is probably more likely to happen. The other being not likely to happen. That's the senior center on boilers. We're going to put in for it, I think, and then we're not going to have a lot of hope for it. The second grant for the Heathbrook School lighting and the Wynn Middle School lighting improvements for motion detectors and energy saving fixtures in the rest of the Wynn School and the rest of the Heathbrook School. Heathbrook School is about 80% completed with lighting improvements. So there'll be some energy savings there from that project. We did have a virtual meeting with the University of Massachusetts last week. All members of the Green Committee attended, and it was quite information for the UMass. There's a student and a director for the students to do an energy audit for the town again to see what improvements we have made, and they're going to try to reconcile the differences between what it was when we started the Green Community Grant and what it is today. At least they're going to make an attempt at it. So that was interesting to hear. That meeting, that was a virtual meeting that went on for about an hour and a half with the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And that's my report on the Green Committee.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Tom?
No, sir.
All right, sounds good, Tom.
No.
Do we have any, since we're on the committee reports, Economic Development Committee, has that even met or anything? No.
Haven't heard a word yet, sir.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to the transfers then. Let's start with the Council on Aging one, I think, is that the rest of the police, I believe, so. Let me share my screen. So we have budget transfer request number 16, a lateral transfer for Council on Aging in the amount of $7,651.20 from the regular salaries to part-time salaries. My guess, Richard, is that they used a lot of part-time salaries.
Yeah, so what happened was Jan Canal was promoted to director, and that left the executive assistant's position open. So during past 6 months, we brought in a part-time person, actually Courtney Corviello, who's running this meeting tonight, to help out. So there's no funding in the part-time line. So we paid her out of the part-time line. Now we're transferring money from the full-time line to pay for that deficit in the part-time line. There's a surplus in the full-time line because the executive assistant position was open. And we had an opening in a outreach worker also. Plus Jan's salary is less than the previous director was making. So there's enough money in the full-time salary to cover it. It was just, we just had someone part-time helping out.
Okay, and there won't be a need for more part-time by the end of the year, or?
No, we filled the full-time position and they're all set.
Great. Anybody have any questions? Or I would look for a motion
So moved.
Second,
to adopt by Dave. Second was
Jason.
Jason. All right, I'll do a roll call vote. Tom, how do you vote?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. That's unanimous, 6-0. Okay, let's move on to the police budget transfer request number 7. Lateral transfer in the police budget for 6,500. Actually, is this just one?
I think there was 3 in this one.
Yeah, I'd like to do all. I think this is just one.
There's one on this for this particular item, but there are 3 transfers altogether.
Yeah, I want to group the ones that go together, but this is just by itself. So 6,500 from staff development to repairs and maintenance for the AI phone system at the door. Any questions?
Why did the costs go up?
It was actually, we didn't have this type of system in place. And when we, a couple of things, when we moved the dispatchers out of the police station, the midnight, the overnight shift doesn't have anyone at the desk, so the doors are locked.
Yeah.
And this allows for a two-way communication from the front desk to the door. Also during COVID, we had the, we've been limiting access to the front of the to the building itself. So this allows for people to call in from the outside before they come in.
Okay. Makes it safe for everybody.
So the price on this, I think I saw was in the neighborhood of $6,000. Is that
Correct.
what we're moving?
Yeah, there is an attached invoice.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, my screen's now. Any other questions? Or I would look for a motion.
Motion.
Susan with a motion to approve.
Second,
From Jason. Roll call vote. Tom, how do you vote?
Not voting.
Not voting. Susan.
Aye.
Jason.
aye.
Rich.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Votes aye. That's 5-0 and 1 not voting. All right. So that. That one. All right, this one has to do with the Mexico.
Yes.
And there are 4, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Briefly go over them here. Let's see, 5,000 from travel out of state to leases and contracts. Yep. And 29, 32, and 73 cents from sick leave buyback, leases and contracts. and $900 from staff development to leases and contracts, and $3,280 out of other equipment. And these are all lateral transfers, if I forgot to mention that.
Correct. And the budgets that they're taken from have been reviewed and have a projected based on, obviously, we're not traveling out of state and not doing as much staff development this year. So there's a projected surplus. We have less sick leave buyback than we projected. We're not undertaking the second drone unit, so there's funding in other police, other equipment in FY 21. And what we're transferring the funds for is Lexipol is a company that we actually use in the fire department, and that's where we got the idea. It's a company that will come in, revamp all your policies, rewrite the policies for the department to what the standards are today, maintain and update your policies throughout the year, provide training on the policies. And this is something we're doing as a step in the direction of certification and accreditation. What we discussed, especially with the new chief, and he can talk more to this when he comes in for his budget, but certification and accreditation has been something we've been working towards for quite some time, not moving as fast as we would like. Lexipol, through the update of all of the policies and training, will help us get there sooner, but also having updated policies and training will be helpful to the department in regard to the way we approach policing in the town. We have an outstanding department and outstanding officers, but it's always good to have policies to back up what they do and training to support what they do. So this is similar to what the fire department has, and there'll be an annual cost that's within the police budget going forward.
Okay, thank you for that update. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question through you, Rob. Any idea when the last time we updated policies was?
So they do a good job updating their policies. Yeah, not a full scale overhaul, but policies here and there on an annual basis. This really was a revamping of all the policies. So I can't tell the last time they did a full scale overhaul.
Okay.
Anybody else with any other questions?
No.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion with on 11, 12, lateral transfer 11, 12, 13, and 14.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Jason and Dave. Roll call vote. Tom?
Not voting.
Not voting. Susan?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And chair votes aye as well. That's 5-0 and 1 not voting. Okay. Set. And now we're on. Yeah, this one. All right, so lateral transfer number 17 is for $16,324 from other equipment to repairs and maintenance. And lateral transfer number 18 is in the amount of $20,074 from other equipment to assessment center. These go together, Richard?
No, they're separate. So this
Okay, I'm
17 is on its own.
Yeah, I just realized that. I thought they were together, but
Yeah.
Let's take them one at a time then. Lateral transfer number 17 for $16,032. Sorry, $10,324 from other equipment to police repairs maintenance.
So again, this transfer is coming from the money set aside for the second drone unit. With the dispatchers moving out to the RECC, work needed to be done in where the dispatchers previously were. Facilities manager Vinnie Bolmo went in and redid the whole area with cubicles and new carpeting and painting, and removed all of the support staff in there that's administrative assistants, and freed up space in other parts of the building for our police officers. So this was something that just took place, updating the building once the dispatchers moved out.
Gotcha. Anyone have any questions on auto transfer 17?
So instead of getting a second drone, we're spending the money on this?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I would look for a motion on transfer 17.
I'll motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Jason, second by Dave. Tom, how do you vote?
Not voting.
Not voting. Susan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Jason?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. 5-0 and 1 not voting. On to number 18. From police other equipment, lateral transfer of $20,000, $20,074. Other equipment to assessment center.
So we conducted an assessment center, a civil service assessment center for establishing a sergeant's and lieutenant's list that expired past few months. We wanted to get a new list because we had vacancies due to retirements in the department. We're looking to fund the cost of the assessment center from again the drone unit, postponing or looking for other ways of funding the second drone unit. The cost of the assessment center is approximately $20,000, and it's based on the number of people that take part in the actual assessment center. So that's what this transfer will pay for.
Okay, and this will pretty much deplete our other equipment.
Yes,
Yeah.
for that particular part of the capital outlay.
Okay. Nothing else we'll need. Other equipment. We don't expect any other things for that other equipment.
No, I mean, there could be other transfers from the capital outlay account. This was just the second supplemental drone unit was just one portion of that account. But right now, we don't. There may be other changes to that capital outlay account, but nothing that we've identified at the moment.
Do we know what's left in that account?
Yep, I could tell you in 1 second. So
After these two transfers, Rich?
So it looks like this will spend the rest of the drone unit. It looks like there's still $377,000 in this account. The budget was $446,000. But they still have within that they were replacing the chiller at the police station for $100,000. They still have cruisers to purchase, and the cruisers, the money set aside for cruisers was $264,000.
And how much was the chiller?
Jill is 100.
So it's kind of eat it all up.
Elite, most of it up will probably have money, probably 25 left in a couple of other areas. That's for software and for police safety equipment. 25,000 between each.
Anybody have any other questions on this transfer?
No.
All right, we have a motion for lateral transfer 18.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Jason with a motion, Dave with a second for approval. Roll call vote. Tom, how do you vote?
Not voting.
Not voting. Susan?
Oh, yeah, aye, please. Thank you.
Yep. Jason?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Votes aye as well. 5, 0, and 1 not voting. Okay, I think that covered the transfers. I didn't miss any, did I, Richard?
No, thank you.
Do you have anything else on the agenda? Double check. I don't think we have any meeting minutes or time sheets. I know Melissa was behind. She said she'd try to catch up and get some more meeting minutes and whatnot. Anybody have anything else before we look for a final motion?
No app for the new spot, the opening.
I'm sorry?
We haven't got any plans for our open position.
I believe we have an applicant or two. Richard, do you have any more info on that?
No, I'll double check tomorrow, see what the applicant pool is, and I'll let you know, Rob.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to get somebody in soon. Join the fun. Any other points of order or business? Look for a
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn by Dave.
Second.
Second by Jason and Susan. Roll call vote. Tom, how do you vote? Susan,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you.
See everyone Monday.
Aye.
Right, oh, I gotta post that meeting. Monday.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.